Well, what a turnaround in the last 10 overs. Sri Lanka was sitting pretty at 80 for 2 at the 10 over mark. England would have been a worried lot because with the partnership going, it could have been 170, 180, 190. Anything looked possible at that stage. Sydney's been a high scoring ground. 187, the average score batting first. And this is where they finish off. 61 for 6 in the back 10, 25 in the last 5. And two of the names there, Mark Wood, towards the end, bowling the last over. Sam Curran showing great discipline. And you'd have to say a combination of England's bowling and Sri Lanka, well, committing a few errors, if you like, with the bat. Let's see how the experts see it here on Cricbuzz Live, halfway through this critical encounter at the SCG. Joy Bhattacharjya alongside, and I doubtless think a delighted Michael Vaughan. You'd take that any day of the week, wouldn't you, Michael, the back 10?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant bowling. At the halfway stage, I was worried. I thought Sri Lanka would easily get to 160. And if they played really well, get 180. And I think that would have been a very difficult chase on this wicket. I still feel this number's not going to be a stroll in the park because the pitch is offering a little bit for the spinners. And obviously, we saw a lot of the slow balls there just grabbing into the surface. But with that short side of the boundary, what this total gives England now is to go and explode in the power play, try and get 50 or 60 in the power play. And if they do that, you'd think the game is done and dusted. But England's bowling was great. I have to say, Sri Lanka's batting in that last 10 overs was awful. The base that you see so many strikers get in this era of T20 cricket, they're getting a nice solid base. They were manoeuvring around the crease. They were giving the signal to the bowler early which way they were going to go. So it made it very difficult. Easier for the bowler to kind of throw one wide or get the bouncer in. So brilliant from England in the last 10. Poor from Sri Lanka. England worked great in the first 10. Sri Lanka were great. England were very good in the second 10, and Sri Lanka worked great. So it's a bit of a 50-50 call. But you have to say that, a score like that, it shouldn't be enough for this England batting lineup. But the one problem is obviously David Malan. It looks like he's really got a problem with that groin.
But if anything, we were going to talk about Malan and the groin. But if anything, we saw what happened when England shuffled their batting order. They really didn't need him. He was padded up, needed to come in just for one delivery. So they'll be hoping that with all the others in the middle order who are now being pushed up to that 3-4 slot, they'll be able to do the job.
Yeah, look, what is very clear now is that while the ball is nice and hard, you've got to exploit the conditions as much as possible. Let the pitch not wear. So hit as much as possible. So what is really crucial is those first 6, 7, 8 overs. If they can get to 65, 70, I think the English batsmen, they have more depth and more ability. I think they'll then be able to take it easy and not without taking significant risks. If you don't take risks, it's not that bad of batting conditions. I think the Sri Lankans batted really poorly. They lost their heads and they just tried to go for the big shots. There was very little rotational strike. So a whole lot of things were wrong. So there's one thing about blaming a pitch. Firstly, the English bowlers also bowled brilliantly. And it's interesting the way they were deployed also. Ben Stokes, that first over, somebody who's not got that much pace on the ball, holding back Mark Woods and Sam Curran right for the end, and it really worked for them. While they went for a bit in the beginning, towards the end, they were absolutely fantastic. They came back with such a bang.
Not a single double-digit score in that economy column, which is what will please England. But if you had to really sum it up, I know the last 10, they were even better. What would your big tick mark be for the England bowling unit, Michael?
I thought Adil Rashid put the squeeze on. You look at his figures there. He had 11 dots in his 4 overs. I thought the pressure started to build once Adil Rashid came into the attack. Sri Lanka, I didn't think they played him great because he bowled so well. But, it looks the kind of wicket for me that in the first 6, you have to go for the boundaries. And as soon as you get out the first 6, it's just about playing good, sensible cricket strokes and running between the wickets really hard. And I thought Sri Lanka got to the stage of a couple of dots and then we're looking for the boundary, the 6s. They should have just kept on rotating the strike. And the more you got in on that pitch, it looked a little bit easier to play on. Very difficult to go out there from ball 1, particularly in the middle after the 6, to strike it into the stands. So I didn't think Sri Lanka played it smart. England were very clever with their variations, which then gives an indication to Sri Lanka that's the way you're going to have to bowl on this surface. I'll mention Malan again because on a chase of just over 140, he's the perfect kind of batter for a chase like that. He's so consistent. He can give himself a chance to get in. He's a brilliant player of spin. He's obviously left-handed as well. So I do think Malan being injured, I'm not saying England are favourites to chase down this target without Malan, but Milan in that batting lineup at 3, I'd have had a cup of tea and a biscuit and just said it's over by now because he's such a consistent performer. Without Milan, and he's a smart player, most of that middle order they're all firecrackers. They all like to have a good go. And if it's not your night and England play 1 or 2 shots too soon, and if Sri Lanka can knock over Joss Buttler inside the first 2 or 3 overs and get rid of Hales, I still think we're in for a contest. But England have done remarkable well. I thought the captaincy of Joss Buttler was excellent as well. He kept very, very calm. You could see he speaks to Moeen Ali regular about what the combinations should be, who should be bowling, to which batters, at which ends of the ground. So I thought Buttler and if it is a combination, but Buttler and Ali, Moeen was captain in Pakistan recently, I don't mind that because it came out with the right solutions.
In the second half, I mean, we saw Afghanistan sort of take it to the very end against Australia. For the first 10 overs, Sri Lanka looked as if they were a side who wanted to go out and make a statement in this tournament. They didn't look like in the second 10. With ball in hand, they'll have to change that if they want to be that keen to show that, yes, we can finish with a bang.
Absolutely. And there, one other problem is that like England, Adil Rashid is going to have a good time, had a good time. That means Hasranga is probably going to do well. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Thikshana will probably bowl well. But what they lack right now, Sri Lanka lack, is one is a bowler with the craft and guile of Sam Curran, who's really right up there in the top 3, 4, 5 bowlers in the world right now with the kind of variations he has in the end. Secondly, what they do lack is that 147, 148 Mark Wood. Because that's what happens, you walk into the crease, even if you're a number 7 batsman, number 8 batsman, 148 to try and expect you to whack it from ball 1 is almost impossible. It is extremely difficult. So those 2 people right at the end just totally stifled Sri Lanka. And once Adil Rashid and all had said that, put the brakes on, they never managed to get their accelerator, get the brakes off and get on the accelerator again. And I think that is the thing with Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka will have to get wickets from Hasaranga and Thikshana because they don't have those enforcer bowlers in the end or somebody as smart as Sam Curran right at the end. They have to get their job done with those 8 overs. So the 8 overs of Thikshana and Hasaranga are basically the match for Sri Lanka.
But it's also the last we saw of Sri Lanka's batting in this tournament, and certainly if they look back on it, they'll celebrate someone like Pathum Nissanka. They'll rue the fact that an Asalanka and Shanaka down the order and Rajapaksa didn't quite deliver what they expected. But you can't take anything away, Michael, from Pathum Nissanka. It was almost Nissanka and friends out there rather than a Sri Lankan batting unit.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like he was batting on a different wicket. He was playing that well. He was striking it purely, timing the ball, hitting it hard, targeting that shorter side, which is exactly what England will do. But 67 or 45 on a pitch, that looked a little bit tricky at times, and your team only get 141. It's a great return, great strike rate, 5 sixes. So he really found his boundary range. And that's what I would be looking at if I was England. I'd be saying, look, if Nissanka can play like that, the pitch can't be that bad. But what Sri Lanka will do is it'll be a trial by spin. England, what did they bowl? 7 overs of spin. I think England will have to face 12 overs of spin at least. So it will be a trial by spin, which offers up that short side for the lap slogs, the sweeps, and that's the way England will play it. They'll face the spinners, and whichever is the right-handed or the left-handed batter hitting towards that shorter side, it'll be sweeps, slog sweeps. Particularly someone like Alex Hales in the first 6, if spin comes on, he will just get that lap slog out. And it'll be the first time if he gets it over the rope, then you get confidence. You can do it. I think it'll be relatively straightforward. But if that big first lap slog goes in the air and you get out, it starts to send a few tremors around the dressing room. So the first 6 are going to be absolutely pivotal because England will come out guns blazing. They have to, and they could quite easily get to 60 if they hit it really well. But if they lose 2 or 3 early wickets, Sri Lanka right back in the contest. So
in a sense, what Michael's also saying is, well played Pathum Nissanka, but the fact that he did what he did will give England confidence.
No, absolutely. It's exactly the same thing. It's also, if England is worried about, how difficult it was to hit in the last few overs, the total came down, but they'll also look at the pitch and say the pitch isn't great either. So you know what I mean? All these are double-edged swords. I mean, you're happy that their total came down. They could get only 25 and 5, but they'd also say that this pitch is not the greatest pitch to bat on. So it cuts both ways. I think he's absolutely right. It's 12 overs of spin versus England top order, because if the top order don't get a run rate on, the rest of the order might find it difficult to capitalize on it. So you need that top order to give you quick runs, and that's the key to the match. And don't be surprised if you get spin on very early. Because if you're Sri Lanka, what do you have to lose? Sri Lanka would be thinking, saying that if this match goes to the 16th, 17th, 18th over, we've probably lost the game. If you've got a total of 140, they've got that far, it's not going to stay. So I think they'll want wickets up front. It'll be very interesting to see how they play their game.
Yeah, in fact, when we talk about, like we see Mujib for Afghanistan, Tikshana is the one who we've seen particularly up front. Hasranga tends to be in the Rashid mold. Given a choice, let me bowl outside the power play. But yeah, I guess Tikshana, if anything, up front, Michael, will be the one big test to start with.
Yeah, it will be. And, those first few balls, you're always looking as a batter, what's it going to do? And if one or two spins quite sharply early, again, that sends a few tremors through the dressing room. It'll all depend on, this opening combination of Buttler and Alex Hales. I mean, they're both in pretty good form on the back of a few runs in the last game. And you usually take that into the next game with confidence and you start to find, that those good vibes again in your batting. If Sri Lanka knock these two over early, I think we're in for a real game. But I just get a sense Buttler, he looks on it. You can see him as the captain. He just looks like he's on it. And he got his form in the last game. And if Buttler plays and if Buttler gets a 50, he can win easily. And I think they'll win in the 17th, 18th over. But, it's T20 cricket. He'll take risk, probably more risk than usual in the first six because he knows that's the real moment for England to get ahead of the game. And by taking those risks, it might offer up one or two opportunities for Sri Lanka. So strap yourselves in for the first six. I think it's in for quite an exciting 6 overs of cricket because England will certainly go for it.
Yeah, well, just to quickly remind you why we are setting these final 20 overs up, or in England's case, it should be less than 20 overs for what should be a great ride because everything depends on this. If England get over the line, as they have with their disciplined bowling, and now it's over to the batsmen, they go straight into the semi-final in second place. There's a mathematical possibility, but let's not even go there, of how they get to first place. They need to get in the semis. In all likelihood, they'll play the topper, which at the moment, India are favourites to be in the other group. And in that case, it would be an India-England semi-final at the Adelaide Oval. And then South Africa would take on New Zealand in Sydney. That's where things look right now. If England weren't to chase this down, then everything changes. It's Australia in the semi-finals against India in Sydney, and then New Zealand, South Africa at the Adelaide Oval. So enough to play for there, enough permutations and combinations. But for the moment, let me get a quick thought. I know we normally don't take predictions if we've got it right, and I promise you, after I said the 139 at the halfway mark, I was going,
well done.
I don't even have a chance. Michael, you'd be happy to concede that even your 148 didn't come true.
Yeah, it was close. It was close, and so was the. What, Joe? What did you say? You said a bit
156. High. I thought I was in with.
Yeah.
I would have been the closest after the 10 overs.
I thought you'd be surpassed.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
The 5-run gap.
My chance was I was likely to the closest, not close. Yeah, not
but
close.
Still, given that we've awarded that, let's still have some fun in games and see where England could possibly be. Sri Lanka came out blazing. Second ball of Stokes was hit for 6. Not sure if Alex Hales and Buttler will quite go that way. They may just see a couple from if Tikshana opens up. But Joy, power play score for England?
54. I'm going to go high.
54? Is that roughly where England would like to be, Michael?
I'm going to go 57.
54, 57, maybe a little conservative, even 50, but wickets in hand. All in the 50s. But one thing's for sure, this is set up for an absolute cracker. This is the last action in this particular group to see who the two semi-finalists will be. It can be England, it can be Australia. It's all in Sri Lanka's hands at the moment. And of course, with the England batters. That's all on the show we have right now. We'll wrap it up at the end and of course, assess the run chase at the 10 over mark on Cricbuzz Combox.